Good evening and welcome to No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Bhagwant Mann took oath as Punjab's Chief Minister today, promising to turn the state around like the AAP did in Delhi, talking about a Badhta Punjab, not an Udta one, a reference to its drug problem. Taking oath at freedom fighter Bhagat Singh's village, Mann was flanked by party chief and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and other senior AAP leaders. It's a historic moment in Punjab's politics, with the AAP catapulting to the top spot barely a decade after the party was founded on the heels of the Anna Hazare movement. AAP's stunning win all the more significant given that the party defeated stalwarts across party lines. But the real work for AAP begins now. Punjab is not Delhi. It's a bigger state and it's a border state with significantly different challenges. Will AAP meet the burden of expectations? And what next after Punjab, Gujarat and Himachal? Let's see. So does AAP have what it takes to meet the challenges that Punjab will bring? And what next after this? We're joined by Raghav Chaddha, who has been one of those in charge of the AAP's campaign there. This victory of the party, as much credit to him as anyone else. Also with us, Naresh Gujral, Rajya Sabha MP from the Shiromani Akali Dal. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us. Raghav Chaddha, once again, congratulations to all of you. But would you say that the real work, Raghav Chaddha, begins now? Punjab is not Delhi. It's much bigger. It has more financial problems and other major issues. So do you think the real test starts now?
Well, I won't say the real test, but yes, a different kind of test and a completely different kind of challenges lie ahead of us now. Fighting the election was one thing, winning the election was one thing. But of course, Punjab currently faces challenges on several fronts, whether it's the economic challenge, where you have a 3.5 lakh crore debt on the state, two issues of unemployment, where Punjab is rated among, those top 3, top 5 states with the highest level of unemployment. So, of course, there are huge challenges, but I do certainly feel that with clean intentions, good intentions, with integrity, with uprightness, and above all, with a clear political will, all these big challenges which look like mountains today will become molehills, and we'll be easily able to navigate through all of these. And Aam Aadmi Party, which was considered to be a one-time wonder in Delhi, or a party which, some people had written off and said that it is a party which can only win elections in a glorified municipality, today has shown that in less than 10 years of our existence, we won two critical states. First, the national capital, and second, a border state as critical as Punjab. We have what it takes.
I'm going to ask you about some specifics in just a moment. But Mr. Gujral, you're a veteran in politics, for a long time in the Akali Dal. Would you say that these election results were really an indictment of the political establishment in Punjab? Because across the board, the Aam Aadmi Party has wiped out stalwarts from the Akali Dal, your entire leadership, Amrinder Singh, the Congress Chief Minister Chani. So is it an indictment of the way things were running in Punjab across the board?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Raghav and his party for the stupendous victory. All sections of Punjab society voted for them, and it's a huge victory, which also means a huge responsibility on their shoulders. Yes, you're right. The tsunami has washed away all established leaders of all political parties in Punjab. And I think that has much to do with the anger and frustration, especially in the youth. They feel completely let down, more so in the last 5 years when huge promises were made and they were not kept. But I would not say that my party can be excused also. We were all equally responsible, and the people of Punjab have voted against established political parties.
I think it's gracious of you to say that it was also a positive vote in a sense, therefore, especially by young people for the Aam Aadmi Party. But Raghav Chaddha, coming back to the specifics again of the challenges ahead, I'm just reading out data to you in terms of what you're staring at. Punjab is 50,000 square kilometers, many times larger than Delhi, which is 1,480 square kilometers. The population is 1.5 times more. And then there's a question of money. So you have Delhi that's relatively richer. You had more access to funds, so you guys could spend more on your welfare schemes. Punjab is the complete opposite. It is a completely debt-ridden, cash-strapped state. These, would you say, are the first immediate challenges you face? It's not easy to replicate Delhi in Punjab, is my point.
No, first of all, as far as the financial health of the state is concerned, of course, all of us are are cognizant of the fact that we're in a state of bankruptcy. And Punjab's, if my memory serves me right, 25% of the annual budget of the state goes in servicing of the existing debt, that is in payment of the interest and the lump sum, a principal lump sum of the total money that has been borrowed by the state. So, which is to my mind criminal. And, the per capita debt ratio of the state of Punjab is 1 lakh. That means every Punjabi roughly has a debt of 1 lakh rupees on his head. So the financial health isn't good, and therefore a lot of work needs to be done in that sector. And of course, we have promised, and we will certainly deliver on preparing, and curating a social security net for the people of Punjab, which will include world-class free healthcare, state-of-the-art education, 1,000 rupees of financial assistance to each woman, followed by our promises on electricity and water. And of course, we have a full blueprint to A, revive and kickstart the economy, B, augment the sources of revenue, and C, plug leakages in the existing sources of revenue. So we've, both Mr. Mann and Mr. Kejriwal have drawn out a full blueprint, a whole plan. And I'm very sure that Bhagwant Mann Saab's government will revive Punjab and is perhaps the last and the final hope of Punjab. And we will most certainly be able to deliver. We are cognizant
let me get
of all
Mr.
these
Gujral's view on that. Mr. Gujral, is it easier said than done to replicate the Delhi model?
Well, Nidhi, the fact is that Punjab is bankrupt today. Raghav is absolutely right. It's a huge challenge. Personally, I hope that Raghav moves to Punjab because he's a chartered accountant like me and he understands figures. When I look at their MLAs, I don't find anybody who has that sense of, who has that economic wisdom which Raghav perhaps would have, because it's a massive challenge. And these things are easier said than done. I know that when we came to power 15 years ago, we had a massive problem also. The main thing was no industry was willing to come to Punjab because Punjab was short of power. By the time we left 10 years later, we made Punjab electricity surplus. And that is when some industries started coming in. But unfortunately, nothing has been done in the last 5 years. And again, Punjab is being plagued with electricity problems. Now, these are infrastructure problems which take a long time. But mind you, industry does not come if you cannot give them this infrastructure. So as I said, these are huge problems. They need attention. I'm sure Raghav and all have a plan to deal with it, but it is not all that simple.
Right. Raghav Chadha, also, Punjab is a border state, it's a sensitive state, and security is also a big concern. And I'm sure that the AAP is mindful of that you have to be really careful in how you deal with things there.
No, absolutely. As far as you see, national security is concerned, Mr. Bhagwant Mann's government, the Aam Aadmi Party government, will certainly work in close coordination with the union government. And we are, fully cognizant of the fact that it is a border state, it is a sensitive state. Every now and then we hear that with the drone movement from across the border, a lot of arms, ammunition and drug supply happens. So, to ensure that, the agencies, including the BSF, etc., that are work towards, protecting the border of the state, of the country, number one. Number two, we will certainly work in close coordination with the union government. And three, as far as, the law and order situation within the state of Punjab is concerned, whether it's supply of drugs or whether it is the rise of gangsters, which one has seen over the last 1 decade, those are issues which Mr. Mann's government is going to concentrate on and deal with them very, very carefully. So I'm sure we'll be, able to deal with all these issues.
So Punjab, in a way, is both a challenge and an opportunity.
I can
for
also
all
hear
of you.
your Hindi channel.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can. I can hear your NDTV Hindi also, if you could kindly get that corrected.
Or
I can hear both the channels. I feel
we
three,
just,
four anchors in 3, 4 different languages are questioning
we're just trying to throw you off just for fun, just for fun. No, but just quick last question, Raghav. You guys have kind of made it clear that you're going to now look at Gujarat and Himachal next. You know, when in 2013 the Aam Aadmi Party won in Delhi, you all got excited and decided to contest all, you decided to contest 400 plus Lok Sabha seats and ended up winning 4. Are you a little worried that maybe the party is making the same mistake in thinking, okay, it's one Punjab and it can keep doing that state by state, or it's now ready to just go full steam ahead?
Look, I think that the Kejriwal model of governance that we have invented and displayed, demonstrated in Delhi, is something that the entire country is yearning for. From Kashmir to Kerala, from Guwahati to Gujarat, all across, people want to see and reap benefits from this Kejriwal model of governance. That's point number one. Point number two, even if you were to study the growth rate and the trajectory of Aam Aadmi Party, you will arrive at the conclusion that Aam Aadmi Party is the fastest growing political party in the history of independent India. We are not even a decade old, and we have a government in 2 states in the country.
You're the only regional party currently with a government in 2 states. That's a fact.
Now, I mean, I don't know whether you would want to call us a regional party or not. That is also a debatable issue.
You're not a national party yet.
Well, I mean, as per the definition of election commission, we may not be, but as far as the number of MLAs are concerned, we are the 4th largest in the country. And as far as our growth rate is concerned, which is most important, we are by far the fastest growing political startup in India. And look at this, Congress party, which is a 140-year-old party, runs governments in 2 states. Aam Aadmi Party, which is a decade old, also run governments in 2 states.
Well,
so we're at par with them in that sense. Number 2, I think there are 3-4 things, Nidhi, that we have which makes Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party the principal challenger to the BJP. Point number 1, we have a pro-people's governance agenda, a new kind of model of governance which creates a social security net for the people. Number 2, we have the formula to defeat BJP even when it comes to their nationalistic appeal and nationalistic agenda and the pitch of nationalism. Third, we have and perhaps the most important point, we have a leader in the form of Mr. Kejriwal, who's an upright leader with unimpeachable integrity, with mass following, and is a charismatic leader that has a pan-India appeal. His appeal is not limited to a particular region. And fourth, and the most important point, we know now how to fight elections, how to win elections, and we have a fire in our belly. None of these 4 points Congress has, and therefore I feel that AAP is going to replace Congress at the national level and is going to become the principal challenger to the BJP.
Mr. Gujral, do you agree? Last comment from you. Do you think that the AAP is emerging as the principal challenger to the BJP, or are they celebrating a bit too early?
Well, they could emerge as the principal challenger to Congress, and they could even replace them. There is no doubt about that. But I think these are early days. Delhi, compared to Punjab, is almost a municipality. Don't forget, they had no police powers in Delhi. When they came to power in Delhi, it was a surplus budget. There was no dearth of money here. Delhi is a very rich state, consuming society. Whereas in Punjab, there are massive problems. For example, even taming of the police, the bureaucracy. They have huge challenges in terms of finances. They've made many commitments to the people, but I have never understood, they have never spelled out where are the resources going to come from. Just saying that we will eradicate mafias is not enough. That doesn't provide you enough revenue stream. So all these are major challenges, and I wish them well. And if they do overcome these challenges, yes, they will be a major force in this country.
Absolutely. And by the way, Raghav, just a parting shot. The fact is, in Delhi, because you all you don't have control over the police and so many different aspects of governance, because it's Delhi and the center is involved. I think you had an out. In Punjab, you don't. The buck will completely stop with the Aam Aadmi Party government and with Bhagwant Mann. So no excuses. It's all on you. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us tonight. All the very best, Raghav Chadha. Thank you, Mr. Gujral, for your comments as well. We're moving on now to look at the state of the Congress party. As I speak, leaders of the Congress dissident group known as the G23 are meeting at the residence of senior leader Ghulam Nabi Azad. Among those attending the meeting are Kapil Sibal, who in fact just spoke to the Indian Express the other day and is the first major leader to say that the Gandhis need to step down from the leadership positions that they're in. Also there, interestingly today, is Shashi Tharoor, someone who's been a kind of a fence-sitter when it's come to these calls for overhauling the party. He has also decided to participate in this meeting today, which is quite significant since he's one of the most visible faces of the party. He put out this rather cryptic tweet earlier today. We didn't know what it meant in the afternoon, but by the evening we certainly did. My colleague Arvind joining us from Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad's residence now. And Arvind, you said that they were going to have an early dinner, but it looks like, they've really gone into a long dinner.
Nidhi, it seems like the meeting is over and finally the dinner is on. So Vivek Tanha was part of this group 16 that was in a huddle at the residence of Ghulam Nabi Azad. He came out few minutes back, and when we asked him about this meeting, he said that G23 is a creation of media. It's just a meeting of friends here with food. That's what he said, and he exited. So some of the leaders are still inside, and what we are being told is that dinner is on. Coming to your question, almost 16 leaders, 16 senior leaders from 6 to 7 states are here meeting at the residence of Ghulam Nabi Azad, just days after the massive setback for the Grand Old Party in the 5-state assembly elections. So 5 sitting MPs are also here in this meeting, in this very crucial meeting, which includes 2 from Rajya Sabha and 3 from Lok Sabha. So what we are being told is that the rebel group, the purported rebel group, they took a stock of the situation. In fact, they had a detailed discussion for over 2 hours. They discussed about the conduct of the Congress party, especially the leadership, and also regarding the people who are being appointed as state in charges, who were in charge in handling the assembly elections in all these 5 states. So they did have a big a pretty long meeting, and the meeting is finally over and the dinner is on. So we have to wait what will be this particular group, the group of 16, will do next, whether this will be a similar kind of meeting of previous meeting that the G23 had, or whether this particular group will take into action. That's something that we have to wait and watch. What we are also being told is that Ghulam Nabi Azad is likely to meet Sonia Gandhi. This is something that we are hearing from our sources, though we have not got it confirmed from either the Congress leadership or from Ghulam Nabi Azad per se, but we are hearing that after this particular meeting, Ghulam Nabi Azad is likely to meet Sonia Gandhi either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That we have to wait and watch. But Congress party is also keeping a close watch on all this development. Right. In fact, after asking all these 5 state presidents to quit, today Sonia Gandhi has also appointed 5 in charges to look into making organizational changes in all these 5 states. So we have to watch whether this particular meeting will just be a meeting or whether this group will take this into an action.
All right, Arvind, a long night ahead, and certainly the next few days should be interesting. Thanks for joining us. And I'm joined now by Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Congress Member of Parliament, someone who's called for change but not entirely in the way that Kapil Sibal has. Thank you, Abhishek Singhvi, for joining us this evening on No Spin. And I see that you're in your car, the wonders of technology today. The G23 leaders, your colleagues in the party, are meeting right now. They've been asking for an overhaul in the way the party is run. Now, you were on this program the other day saying that something has to change. How do you see then the G23's calls for that change? Do you support them?
2 or 3 very specific points. There is a lot of constructive criticism which is welcome. That whenever you say of reconfiguring, rewiring, restructuring, etc., it means that it's only a one-point agenda to take away those with a surname of Gandhi, etc. There is a need to reconfigure, restructure. It has to include from bottom to top and top to bottom. It has to include the block president office bearers, the district office bearers, the state office bearers, and so on and so forth. It's a collective thing. And all those suggestions, I think Congress is the most liberal party. But it becomes a little negative and it becomes a little, destructive if you kind of focus on some narrow issues only, which is what I get the feeling sometimes from what I see.
But why do you call it negative, destructive, narrow when the buck stops with the leadership of a party?
Well, if there was a way in which you could press a button, Gandhis go away and everything is hunky-dory, I think the first people to go away would be the Gandhis. Is it really, put your hand on your heart, Nidhi, and ask yourself the question, is it really going to happen? Is it that simplistic? Well, if your answer to that question is no, that you press that button and everything is solved, well, then the question arises, why should people keep on repeating this? I'm only on this narrow part of the demand. Why should you, is there not something then which becomes a single point agenda, something negative, something not very constructive for the Congress? You can make a suggestion, you do this, do that, etc. But I think, when you are in, and there has been a decline in the Congress, 2014 onwards, as I said in another chat show, there has been a secular decline and we are not running away from it, even though, we've had good times, we had 2 successive governments from 4 to 14. But the answer to that is to make reform, not to say things which might lead to the breakup, which might lead to the destruction or the self-implosion of the party. That can't be the solution.
But isn't that implosion already happening under the leadership of the Gandhis?
What is happening is that we are in a decline and we need some hard restructuring and reform to stop that. We need, for example, I'll give you 3 very specific things which can be done without anything to do with this constant refrain of leadership change. 1, you start reconfiguring office bearers at all levels. 2, you start doing, as I said, alliances and groupings around those in the states who have pole position. You have to submerge your egos and get around it. In some states, Congress will be the leader. And 3rd is to make very strategic seat adjustments to prevent vote divisions against the BJP. Now, a lot of these things don't require anything of the sort which has been suggested. And then, of course, there will be changes as you go along. But then you have to gain the trust and confidence. People start getting the feeling that this is a single point agenda. That can't be the solution.
But then where is the accountability? You have lost a string of elections over the last many years, including 2 big Lok Sabha elections. Who's accountable for that?
All of us are, including them. They've come out and said so. But every time you lose the election, do you have a complete resignation of the president of that party? Which party does it? Tell me. When you lose an election, when you're in trouble, you just have en masse resignations. The next sentence you will say after that is they're running away. They've lost and they're running away. I don't think that's the way it works. You have to own up. I don't think ever, I'm not talking of now, but right for the last decade or 2 decades, Sonia Gandhi has never run away to come up with own ownership, nor is Rahul Gandhi, nor is Priyanka Gandhi this time. They are contrite, they are sad as I am, as you are as a congressman maybe. But the point is that the answer is not an en masse resignation.
All right, Abhishek Singhvi, you clearly believe the Congress needs to change, however, not as drastically as Kapil Sibal and some other leaders may seem to think. Thanks for joining us from your car. I've seen it all on national television. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow. Good night.